What if everything you believed about the Gosselin family was a carefully crafted illusion? What if behind the smiling faces and picture-perfect moments was a controlled reality no one dared question? Until now. Hannah Gosselin, daughter of Jon and Kate, is risking everything to shatter the silence. No tabloids, no PR spin, just her raw truth, told in her own words. She's not here to gossip. She's here to expose what really happened behind the cameras and why she stayed silent for so long. This is the story they never wanted you to hear. Are you ready to finally learn the truth? People thought she left out of rebellion. A troubled teen siding with her estranged father in a tabloid-fueled custody war. That's what the headlines said. That's what they wanted you to believe. But the truth, as Hannah reveals, is something far more haunting. She didn't run away. She ran to safety. While the show framed their life as fun chaos, Hannah remembers something else: control. Everything was calculated. Even going to the bathroom required approval if it interfered with filming. Life wasn't lived, it was staged. Lunches were rehearsed, conversations were pre-planned, even emotional breakdowns were carefully choreographed. When the crying didn't look convincing enough, they were told to try again. When smiles didn't match the script, they were coached until they did. But coaching turned to yelling, and yelling turned to fear. The warmth the public saw vanished the moment the red light on the camera turned off. Hannah says the production team saw it all. The manipulation, the screaming, the breakdowns. But instead of stepping in, they cut around it. They softened the edges in editing. They cropped out Kate's anger. The final version was clean, polished, and fake. Discipline, as it was framed for the audience, was actually fear. What appeared on screen as a tight-knit, loving family was, in truth, a carefully protected brand. If a child didn't smile or play their part, they weren't just moody. They were seen as a liability to the image. Hannah remembers one of her siblings messing up a shot. No tantrum, no crying, just imperfect timing. The result? Yelling until they broke down. Then, just enough comfort to get them back in front of the camera, ready for the next take. Moments like these didn't make it to air. Not in promos, not in behind-the-scenes clips. They were deleted, edited out like bad lines in a sitcom. But they weren't just moments. They were childhood. Hannah Gosselin's truth isn't wrapped in drama. It's built on years of silence, observation, and pain. One of the most disturbing revelations she shares is about something hidden in plain sight. Journals. Not childhood scrapbooks or loving memory books. These were cold, calculated records kept by her mother, Kate Gosselin. According to Hannah, Kate documented every misstep, every mood swing, every show of independence from each of her children in these journals. It wasn't parenting, it was surveillance. Hannah recalls discovering her name in one of those journals, listed beside a single word: rebellious. At the time, she didn't even know what it meant. But as she got older, the meaning became chillingly clear. In Kate's world, rebellion didn't mean bad behavior. It meant having a voice. It meant showing personality, asking questions, or expressing discomfort. To be rebellious was to resist the image Kate worked so hard to create. And resistance, no matter how small, was not allowed. These journals weren't private musings. They were used to justify punishments, used to rationalize extreme discipline. Later, they were even brought into court battles as evidence. Evidence not of neglect or harm, but of control. To the world, Kate presented herself as the overwhelmed but devoted mother doing her best. Behind closed doors, those records were weapons, proof she was keeping her children in line. For Hannah, it was more than micromanagement. It was emotional imprisonment. She wasn't just a daughter growing up in a chaotic household. She was a subject in someone else's narrative. Every word, every facial expression, every mistake, documented and stored away for later use. She was being watched, evaluated, and categorized. An object of control in a system built for performance, not love. When Hannah finally left her mother's home to live with her father, Jon, the media didn't want the truth. They wanted a story. They wanted a troubled teen. And that's the headline she got. No one asked why she left. No one asked how she felt. The story was already written for her. Rebellious daughter flees to estranged father. But Hannah says that's not what happened. She wasn't unstable. She wasn't angry. She was just trying to breathe. I wasn't troubled, she says. I was just trying to survive. The aftermath was just as painful. She reached out to her siblings, the same brothers and sisters she grew up with, shared a home with, shared secrets and memories with. Only one replied, after weeks of silence. The message? I can't talk about this. Please stop. No explanation, no comfort. Just a door slammed shut. Hannah doesn't blame them. She believes they're scared. Some might be under legal restrictions. Others might simply be afraid of what would happen if they spoke up. In their world, silence equaled safety, and speaking out meant exile. She gets it. But that doesn't make it any easier. What Hannah saw on TV, what millions of Americans saw, was a polished illusion. She points to moments like a live interview on the Today Show, when Kate brought her twin daughters, Maddie and Cara, to speak. But when the girls hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, Kate snapped at them on air. Use your words. Spit it out. One of the girls replied flatly, You already said everything. The hosts looked awkward. Viewers cringed. But for Hannah, that wasn't awkward. That was normal. That was her life. Say the right thing. Smile on cue. Never contradict the narrative. That's what growing up in the Gosselin household meant. And that's why Hannah is speaking out now, because she's done being a character in someone else's story. She doesn't think her siblings are loyal to Kate because they agree with her. She believes they're afraid. Afraid of being isolated. Afraid of legal threats. Afraid that stepping out of line will bring the same pain she endured. But Jon was different. He wasn't perfect. He didn't fight hard enough at first. He admits he stayed in the spotlight too long, hoping he could manage the fallout. But in the end, he chose truth. He didn't lie to her. He told her he should have protected them sooner. He admitted he was scared of the court system, of losing access, of making things worse. And that honesty, though imperfect, was real. Their bond today isn't based on perfection. It's built on transparency, a kind of love that doesn't need cameras to prove it exists. What hurt the most, Hannah says, wasn't just the discipline or the shouting. It was how the adults in the room, producers, crew, handlers, stood by and watched. They witnessed it all. The emotional breakdowns, the aftermath, the moments when kids needed help, and they chose the shot instead. After a meltdown, the cameras didn't stop. They reset, ready for a family pancake breakfast scene like nothing happened. Any attempt to resist filming was brushed aside with false assurances. We won't use it. But they always did. Even the house wasn't a home. Lighting rigs, set call times, thin walls, emotionally and literally. Everyone could hear when someone was crying, but no one came. Not the crew, not the producers, not the assistants. No one. She describes it as a dollhouse, one they didn't control, a prison designed to look like a playground. Eventually, the emotional toll became unbearable. Panic attacks, sleepless nights, years of not trusting anyone, and always the silence. She thought it would protect her family, but it only erased her. She stayed quiet, for too long. And that silence became its own form of suffering. Now, she's telling her story. No handlers, no publicists, just her truth. Not for revenge, not to hurt anyone, but to say out loud what everyone else ignored. That the cost of keeping quiet wasn't just emotional, it was everything. And she's done paying for it. She wants people to understand. She didn't destroy the family dynamic. She didn't break it. She just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. In 2021, Hannah and her brother Colin were both living full-time with Jon. A judge made it official. But for Hannah, legal rulings didn't make her whole. They didn't bring back her siblings. Jon says he hasn't spoken to the other kids in years. His door remains open. No one has walked through it. That's the price of freedom. Peace. But at a cost. She knows the version of herself people believed for years. The rebellious daughter, the difficult teen, the problem child. But that wasn't her. That was a role she never wanted to play. They called it reality TV. But for Hannah, it was never real. It was a performance scripted by fear. Now, she's off script, reclaiming her voice and her truth. No edits, no filters, just raw honesty. If her story moved you, like, share, and subscribe. The truth deserves to be heard. Thanks for watching.